My guest today went to one of the most dangerous places on earth to make a difference. She has made a huge difference, but in the process of doing that, she's also paid a huge cost. Kimberly Smith Hyland, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Cheryl.
Your second home is Sudan and South Sudan, where you have been helping people living in, I guess, a hell on earth, in a sense. Tell me about just the work you do there and your passion for it.
We started 14 years ago with 153 starving, naked children who couldn't read and write. And today, those children are graduating from high school because we built first grade and then second grade. We feed them 3 meals a day, do everything it takes, build their home, build their schools, pay their teachers, hire their teachers, train their teachers, everything that it takes to raise a child in a war zone, because there is absolutely no governmental infrastructure. So today we have 2,000 of those beautiful children and nearly 350 Indigenous employees. Most of those women have been trafficked or were sex slaves prior to coming to us, the women who are now running this work. So it's a beautiful ministry.
Well, it's incredibly dangerous for you to do this work. It's incredibly difficult for you to do this work. So I know we kind of say, like, now we do this, we have this many kids, and it's all nice in a bow. People don't realize just how hard it is to do that kind of work in a war zone with so much danger. And then you yourself, while you were there doing this work, you were out one day searching for a little child that was maybe going to die that night. And you couldn't find the people that could help you find them at that moment. And so you did something you wouldn't normally do. Tell me what happened on that day.
I went out to look for the baby. I had named him Baby Elijah. He had come to me, his mother had died, and 2 women brought him to me, knowing that the local village myth is that if a mother dies in childbirth, then they lay the baby with the mother and just let the baby die also. They say the mother is calling him to the grave. Well, that's because they don't have bottles, formula, milk. They don't have a way to care for that baby. And so that's sort of a myth that was born from necessity. But the women in the village knew that I would find a way to take care of that baby. And so they brought him to me, and I had been nursing him, taking care of him for 2 months. And finally it was time. The baby was old enough, and we thought the community would receive him without harm, but they didn't. It looked like it at first, but then one of the women came and told me that he had been put in a tukul and was being left to die. So I went out to find him, and as I was looking for him, I went down to a river looking for our leader. And at the river, a group of Darfur refugees were there. This is at the height of the Darfur crisis. And a group of Darfur refugee men were there and saw me, not knowing why I was there or what I was doing. But there was a lot of hatred against foreigners for understandable reasons at that time. And so they attacked me. I tried to run away, but they attacked me. They beat me quite severely, and many of them raped me. I don't know how many. I lost count at one point. I think 7. But what I do remember is that at one point I heard gunfire, and I assumed it was the men, but it didn't make sense because the Darfuri refugees wouldn't have had guns. And the next thing I knew, a large Sudanese soldier was after me, was over me, and he had knocked those guys down and picked me up and carried me back to safety.
Wow. So here you are doing this incredible work. You know, as a person of faith, you believe it's your calling, that God has called you to Sudan and South Sudan to do this work, and then this unthinkable thing happens. How are you now processing this in the aftermath?
Now it's different. That happened almost 10 years ago. My first response was, I wanted to die. I didn't want to have to face it. I actually tried to take the gun from the soldier who had rescued me. He pushed me down, he threw me down because he knew what I would have done with that gun. I would have shot myself. So once I worked through, okay, I survived, my body is alive, I went through several years of really being angry with God, just blaming God for everything. You called me to this hell and now I've lived the hell. What's that? And I felt a lot of years of just anger. But the great thing about God, as we see in so many stories from Elijah throughout the Bible, our anger doesn't scare God, and He understands it. And He just gave me a broad berth to be angry for a long time. And then I went through a stage of just anesthetizing my pain with alcohol and not being honest about what was happening. When I finally got to the place where I could talk about it, I did everything from traditional talk therapy. I spoke with my pastor, I spoke with therapists, I did EMDR, I did narrative therapy, and then I finally found equine therapy, which was the most healing for me. And it's been just a process. We don't just come back one day and everything is okay. We don't just say a sweet little Jesus prayer and everything is okay. I needed a lot of help, and I think that's the thing that Christians forget a lot of times, is that we're supposed to always be happy, we're supposed to always rejoice in all things, and yet God gave us anger for a reason. It must be cathartic for something. Mm-hmm. And it took going through a wide range of emotions to find healing and recovery.
And I think God loves us in our humanity, and we have human responses to horrors. What you went through was horrific. It's hard to survive something like that. And I know that even with your own husband, you didn't want to tell him what happened. Tell me about the moment. How long was it before you told Milton, and what was that moment like?
It was almost 4 years before I told him.
Wow.
And a part of me knew that, or a part of me felt that he would not be able to process that it just wasn't going to happen. And in the end, and as I continued therapy, in the end, he couldn't. And he asked for a divorce a few years ago. We've been divorced almost 5 years now.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So the huge price has come out of the work that you do, and then what happened to you. How do you look at it all now?
People say things to me, even still, people say things to me, I'm getting ready to go to the war zone. I just got back a few days ago, and I've had a lot of death threats recently because of some other crises going on there. And some people say, don't go back. They're threatening to kill you. Why would you go? Other people will say, there's no safer place than in the will of God, so go. You're going to be safe. It's all going to be okay. And I find neither one of those helpful, because the reality is I'm a mortal being. This body's going to die. I don't know how it's going to die. It might die by a bullet in Sudan. It might die because I walk out in front of a truck tomorrow. I don't know how it's going to die. So preserving this body is not my mission. Being the incarnate love of God for as long as I have this body, that's my mission. Mm-hmm. Love people. Care for people. If I have 2 coats, then I need to give one of those coats. If I have extra food, I need to share that extra food. And I can't do that if I'm not present. And I want to be present in places where they don't have, where there is such extreme suffering. So why would I not go just because I'm afraid I might not come back?
It makes me think of the Bible verse that says, greater love hath no man than this, than that he lays his life down for a friend. You are literally, and you have laid your life down for the people of Sudan. I think about someone watching right now, maybe is called to feel something dangerous and finds it scary that there could be, price to be paid that they wouldn't want to pay. What would you say to that person?
I would say that Mother Teresa used to say all the time, and here she was doing all these great things, but she used to say that if you really want to love God, then love the person right in front of you. And so while you talk about lay down my life, the more important thing, I remarried 2 years ago. And after being married for 25 years and then remarrying, I found the biggest challenges in learning. I love this man clearly. His name is Scott. He's a beautiful man. And I love this man clearly, but you talk about laying down your life, then it happens more by being in intimate relationship with someone, and you don't have to be right. It's your ego that comes up. That's where you lay down your life, is you don't have to be right. Just die in that way. Die to yourself first, right in relationship where you are. And that prepares you. Be faithful with that small thing, because that's really hard. People think, oh, I'm going to go do something great over here, but if we haven't learned to die to self right here with those that we are, we're not going to make it over there.
It can be those day in, day out things that are the harder things. So if people want to find out more about the work that you are doing in Sudan, where would they go?
MakeWayPartners.org. That's our website. We have a free newsletter they can sign up. I write the stories from the field. I write the stories about marriage and trauma right there. And also Passport Through Darkness. They can get it on our website or through Amazon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming today to share your story.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.